Your favorite year is 1984. Would you like to hear 1984?
84 Mid-South, the best.
In 1984, on September 17th, I was in New Orleans, Louisiana at the Downtown Municipal Auditorium.
What day of the week, do you know?
That's a Monday night. Yes, I'm looking at the book right here. It was a Monday night because New Orleans was still at that point running. It used to be a weekly town on Monday night every week. And then in 84 and with Dog leaving, it got to be intermittent and then started going to the Lakefront Arena for some of the shows, blah, blah, blah. But this was the old downtown building. And we were living in Alexandria, Louisiana at that point. So it was 200 miles exactly from Alexandria to New Orleans. And the first, I'm going to say 120 miles of that was 2-lane road. So it was from Alexandria, I mean, driving like bats out of hell 40 years ago when there was less traffic, it was still every bit of 3.5 hours to get down there, right? So you left because you had to be there an hour beforehand and bell time was 7:30. So you left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you were the main event, by the time you got out of downtown, they had to clear the people out of the, area first so you could get to your car. You weren't back home till 2 o'clock if you were the main event, easily.
When you're doing that many miles regularly for a year, a little over a year, actually, are there any local shows, or not even local, just any programs you hear on the radio that you start to like just because of the regularity of hearing different personalities and different things?
Well, no, because we were never in the car in the morning when all we were always, in the afternoon, listening afternoon, evening, and the middle of the night. And we're going past and through so many different radio station markets. We just hit the fucking button till we found some fucking classic rock. Well, it wasn't classic rock then, it was just rock. And that, it was a blur. It was a fucking blur. And you would leave the station and it would start staticking and you'd fucking just turn the thing until you found something else that you liked.
So when you think about 84 Mid-South being in the car, what songs come to you right away? Like if you hear this song, you're going to think about being in that car.
There is one, the Eagles, because Dennis Condrey used to make a joke out of this. This was 1984, right? When was the Eagles, the Long Run album released?
79, maybe? 78?
80.
Was it 80? Okay.
Point being,
you like them a little better than I do.
Well, point being, the Eagles, Dennis would say, we're the hottest fucking band on the goddamn radio in Louisiana. We suddenly went back in time 4 years. And they played the Eagles constantly on every radio station in that territory. And that was the fucking rib. You couldn't get away from them. But that was, in those days, it was a joke. I don't even think it was confined to the wrestling business. You're now entering Louisiana, set your watches back 20 years. Especially in the rural parts, Alexandria and Lake Charles, Lafayette. Baton Rouge and New Orleans was a little, more up-tempo, but oh boy.
But that's what I'm asking too, because like the Rock and Roll Express exploded Mid-South in 84. And MTV, from what you know, how available was it in any of those markets? And, that's the thing, like the Rock and Roll Express videos are like the Van Halen Jump and various things. Was that music on, do you think of that? Like, yeah. Did you hear that in the car?
Oh, yes, it was all over Van Halen was all over, Jump was all over, whatever the rock and roll was coming out to was what was all over the radio. But also, Louisiana had cable in all those markets. They were shitty little local cable systems. But the thing was, as you might recall, some of the smaller markets in the country got cable first because it wasn't like New York. It wasn't this giant multi-billion-dollar thing they were bidding on. It was like, yeah, let's go put fucking cable in goddamn Bogalusa.
Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. So MTV was huge in 1984 and the radio and Van Halen, and they were seeing the goddamn same things everybody else was seeing. It was a little bit more primitive fucking. There were no north and south interstates. You had I-10 from east to west at the bottom of the state and I-20 from Shreveport cross through to Jackson, Mississippi at the top of the state, and everything else was 2-lane bullshit. and you would find some backwoods motherfuckers, just so you know. But anyway, on September 17th in New Orleans, Louisiana, I managed Hercules Hernandez and Dr. Death against Hacksaw Duggan and Terry Taylor, where Dr. Death smacked Terry Taylor with the helmet, and we beat him 1-3.
Is that the famous one? Like they had the video of it because he got busted open? Or hit him in the eye? Is that what it was?
It may have been.
Remember they used to do those videos in Mid-South, like, people say wrestling's fake. I'll show you how fake it is. And it would just be guys getting busted open.
Oh, yeah.
Just
on their head. Stitches and dropped on their head and fuck it. Yes. And then the main event that night was the Midnight Express against the Fantastics for the Mid-South Tag Team title with no disqualification. And it was a wild fucking melee. And then, as I recall, I think Dundee was off, and this was a Grizzly Smith finish, because Bobby Fulton went to give Bobby Eaton an atomic drop, and he had to do it close enough to the ropes that I could jump up on the apron and push Bobby Eaton's feet, and he fell backwards on Bobby Fulton, 1, 2, 3. That was the finish of a no disqualification match. That's why I think Grizzly may have been filling in.
So this is September in New Orleans. When was the angle with the straitjackets? The straitjackets are rock and roll. The contract signing with the Fantastics, with the famous chair shots.
Oh, with the chair shots. Yeah, because the straitjackets we did on TBS with the Fantastics.
Yeah.
Hold on here. Let me go back, see if I can find the TV tapings. Today, and we're already doing the deal with them. Replay contract signing in show 262. That means it was in show 261. So that we had shot that August 29th, but it aired all through September at various points in the territory.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out, what exactly you guys were doing. You know, this is a no DQ match. What would have set it up? That was one of the most vicious angles that people still talked about, those chair shots, seeing the dents in the chair. It's like the first time you ever saw that in wrestling.
But and because poor Bobby and Tommy were trying to get over like crazy, and they told Bobby, lay him in. But what set this up particularly was the September 3rd show in New Orleans. That's the night that Hercules against Duggan with my hair versus Duggan's hair. And Dr. Death was the referee, and Doc and Duggan were friends, but I paid Dr. Death off. He switched heel, and we fucked Duggan, but they came in the ring and goddamn shaved me anyway. We told that story. But earlier that night, the Fantastics had wrestled the Midnight, and we had gotten disqualified. I can't read my writing anymore. We got disqualified for Bobby throwing the powder at Bobby Fulton, but hitting the referee in the eyes instead. So we came back with a no DQ match that night on the 17th. Because it makes sense. Imagine that.
Could you have done it another year if you hadn't gone to World Class and you didn't have Mid-Atlantic lined up? Could you have done the schedule? Are you young enough and had enough energy? Okay.
No, I'm about to tell you why. Because here's the fucking rib. As I went back and looked at this, that was September 17th, 1984. Do you know the previous day off that I had in the Mid-South Wrestling territory, where I hadn't done a house show or a TV taping or a set of interviews, or potentially all three in the same day? Before September 17th, my previous day off.
Spring.
Oh, God damn it. Just blurt a date out.
Just blurt a date out. I'm trying to think, when was this? When was that? Early May.
Well, thank you, Ed McMahon. June 18th.
Damn it.
July, August, 3 months before my birthday was the previous day I had off. Do you know what the next day off that I had after my birthday? And I didn't have my birthday off, but I'm saying the next day off I had in Mid-South Wrestling after June 18th.
No.
October 14th. October 4th. Now, wait a minute. Hold on here, though, because I want to tell you.
Does that automatically...
I want to tell you.
Does that automatically mean the same thing for Bobby and Dennis?
No, because here was the problem. And also, I didn't take off all of October 14th. Let me tell you this. Let me talk to you. So in Mid-South at that point over the summer, I'd started managing Hercules Hernandez. And then when he was partners with Dr. Death and Tags, I was working with them too when Doc had switched heel in the angle we just did, right? So if the Midnight got a precious day off, if Dr. Death or Hercules were booked, I still went. Also, at this period of time, Mid-South Wrestling was legitimately running a live event every night of the week, 7 days a week, every day of the month. In addition to that, on Sunday, more often than not, I would say 80% of the time, it was a double shot, a 2 o'clock in the afternoon show, and then 7:30 at night in a different city. In addition to that, every Wednesday, no matter where we were booked on a Tuesday night, or no matter where we were booked on Wednesday night, every couple of weeks it was in Shreveport for TV taping, but it could be 280 miles away in Greenwood, Mississippi. But all the top main event talent would be in Shreveport at the TV station from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. on Wednesdays to cut the local promos for all these live events we're doing. So you literally worked 8 wrestling shows a week and did 6 hours of interviews every day or every Wednesday on a day you're also doing a show that night. And the double shot on Sunday. A double shot on Saturday was not unheard of, but not regular, thank God. But some weekends we did do 4 live events. And every 2 weeks was a TV taping where they did 2 one-hour TV programs. And if you were a main event guy, you often worked on both those shows, which meant that you would now have wrestled 9 matches that fucking week.
What about local promos?
With the local promos, there was 20, did he have 20 or 22 TV markets? So you did 40 or 44 local promos every Wednesday. 2 minutes each. And so with that schedule, I had started on June 18th. And by the way, we've talked about it. It was 3,000 miles a week a lot of times in a car. If you didn't fly to Oklahoma, it was 4,000 miles that week. And so there was no goddamn time to think about what you were doing to realize that you shouldn't really be able to do this. I mean, just the week of August 6th through August 12th, 400 to 630, 730. Hold on. That's 400, 1130, 1330, 15 to 16. Oh, we did 1,600 miles that week, but that's because we flew from Little Rock through Oklahoma and back, or it would have been 3,000. So anyway, then the point is, on October 14th, we had a goddamn double shot. We had to go from Alexandria to Pine Bluff, Arkansas for an afternoon show, cage match against the Fantastics. That was 230 miles of 2-lane road, so we'd have to leave at like 8 in the morning. And then on the way back, about 130 miles, we'd stop in Monroe and work against the Rock and Roll Express that night. And then I'd manage Duggan against Hercules. And then come another 100 miles back. So we would leave at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd get back home about 1:30. But I had to call in sick because I couldn't drag myself out of bed to go to Pine Bluff. And I went to Monroe that night because, I was booked. I had to. I didn't want to fucking get fired. I was already called in sick on the afternoon show. And I made 2 more fucking shows. New Orleans on Monday and Shreveport on Tuesday. And the Fantastics got 5 minutes with me on Tuesday night. And then we did interviews on Wednesday morning. And I said, I'd started feeling like 15 minutes after I got up in the morning, like I hadn't slept in 3 days. I couldn't get up off the couch. I couldn't open my eyes. I was nodding when I was standing up. And I was having this pain in my abdomen. And so they said, don't go to Lafayette, go to the fucking doctor. So I went home to Alexandria, went to the doctor, and they told me I had mono. And I don't know if they even still have that. You don't hear about it anymore. But
No,
mono
they still have it.
do they?
Yeah. My older daughter, she knows a kid who just went to the hospital, got mono.
Well, they used to call it when I was a kid the kissing disease because you could transmit it. It's something with your immune system. This is 40 years ago. I saw this fucking doctor in Alexandria. I don't know. He could have been a goddamn veterinarian, but it's an immune system thing or whatever. Your immune system gets worn down. I don't fucking know. They said my pain in my abdomen was from my internal organs swelling and blah, blah, blah. And we narrowed it down because Terry Taylor at the same time took a month off almost because he had mono. And I knew that I had not kissed Terry Taylor nor him me. But we narrowed it down at the interview sessions on Wednesdays at Channel 3 in Shreveport. The only place to get anything to drink they had in the break room, they had a goddamn Coke machine. And it was one of those fucking, the old time machines. It wasn't cans and it wasn't plastic. They didn't have plastic bottles with screw off caps. It was the goddamn, remember those thin, tall, like 10 or 12 ounce Pepsi bottles? Are you old enough for that?
I know what you're talking about, sure.
Okay, you got bottles out of the machine, and all the boys had bottles of soft drinks sitting on their tables when they're doing promos. And I swear to God, either I drank Terry's or he drank mine, and we got the same goddamn thing.
You didn't think maybe it was a girl?
Oh, for heaven's sake. I wouldn't. We had much different taste back in those days.
Just there was like a kissing bandit running around?
Well, no, there was no kisses stolen. They were freely given away.
Do you, when you do the 5 minutes with the manager, if you're the heel, that means you're doing all the bumping, all the selling, everything. Does it take forever, like in your head? Is it 5 minutes or is it an hour?
No, because it don't last 5 minutes. Unless, here's the thing. It's not a tag team usually. We did at the Great American Bash. Both the Fantastics got me. And I think Tommy punched me and Bobby slammed me and they double clotheslined me and beat me 1, 2, 3. When it's a single heel against the manager, then that's when the manager, to Shane Douglas's great consternation, throws powder in his eyes and chokes him with a rope and gets some steam for about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes so that people can get pissed off, so that then he can clear his eyes and make the comeback like Ronnie Garvin did in the matches we've talked about, and fucking beat me by throttling me around my neck and having my shoulders pinned, so it's not like he's not even really finished with me yet, but boom, we get out of it and I'm drug out. You get out quick. So it doesn't last 5 minutes, except if the manager is somehow going to prevail in some freaky way. But nevertheless, where I prevailed was home for a week. This is the longest, besides surgery, that I ever had to take off of wrestling because I was sick. 7 days. They told Terry Taylor take a month off, and I think he did, and also he was a wrestler. The doctor said, you need to take a month off. You need to get as much rest as possible. You need to eat a healthy diet, because imagine what our diet was like at that point. Mine especially.
Yeah, Terry Taylor was in good shape.
Yeah, but imagine what mine was like in those fucking thousands of miles in the car and this fucking schedule. In Alexandria, every lunch I had was either McDonald's chicken nuggets or from goddamn 7-Eleven. Every day of my fucking life. So they said, take a month off, get rest, eat a healthy diet, take vitamins. There's no cure for this. I said, I'll see what I can do. So I took off Lafayette, Louisiana, Laranja, thank God, Hamburg, Arkansas, Little Rock, goddamn it, Oak City and Tulsa, it killed me too, and Lake Charles and Baton Rouge. No, Baton Rouge, we were already off, thank God. I would have got a day off. And I went back to interviews and Shreveport TV on the 24th because that was the goddamn straitjacket angle with the Rock and Roll Express. And so I had to be there. And after 7 days of sitting in a house, eating healthy as I could and sleeping, I went back to work and I did another, let's see, that's 1 week. That's, you know what? I worked another 2 weeks straight, and then we started having a couple of days off because by November, we were about ready to finish up. But they almost killed me. That was over 100 and something days in a row of doing those trips and those shows and getting bumped around and sweating the summer in goddamn Louisiana and the Gulf of Texas and eating like shit and hardly ever sleeping and screaming for fucking hours at a time. It almost killed me. That was 1984.